This may be a continuation, or this may just be a new episode. I had to stop the recording to see if ChatGPT would work, and the piece of shit didn't, so I'm starting over, Grace. Dear Grace, Dear Grace, no coffee today, no nicotine, no weed, nothing but water. Water and sleep. We'll see how this goes. See if my voice is any different, or my demeanor. Although, to be fair, to judge based on a single day doesn't really count. Which is why, until someone gets Tabitha working, why did I pick that name, Tabitha? It's going to be way too hard to say. Tab sounds too stupid. Until someone gets Tabitha working, they can prove that by collecting all this personal data and sharing it, then we can help each other. What a concept. Unexpected connection between menthol and Alzheimer's discovered in mice. Poor mice. Social withdrawal, hidden nuances, shed study. Social withdrawals, hidden nuances. Study sheds light on distinct emotional outcomes in youth. Distinct emotional outcomes in youth. Study finds what gets plants' roots to grow strong. Meta-perceptions have important consequences for romantic couples. Study suggests it's a meta-perception. Grace, do you have those? I don't know what the fuck they are. Two philosophers named New Generation Thinkers by BBC. Yeah, who's listening to them? Everyone's a new generation thinker now. Inside New Westminster's state-of-the-art aquatic and community center. Quantum internet demonstration in cities is most advanced yet. I'm the new Oppenheimer. I'm the new Oppenheimer or Oppenheimer. My soul-destroying day at somebody's first ever AI warfare conference. Meta is discontinuing workplace to focus on AI and metaverse. Researchers discover new family of bacteria with high pharmaceutical potential. And these bacteria just coincidentally showed up now. What a fucking surprise. A new study says quantum entanglement may be reversible. Eli Lax explains how animals can become a therapeutic salve. Robert somebody's principles of influence have held up for 40 years. Here's why. The signs of online dating. Use Tabitha. Be fucking honest. Online dating can feel confusing and overwhelming, but there are ways to make it easier and more successful. Finding the right partner begins before one even opens an app. Understand the self to identify better matches. Profile pictures matter. Recent and more accurate photos can help avoid disappointment. Someone's profile will be instantly more appealing if they highlight their ability to be a great partner. Why do some people use online dating? A million fucking reasons. For that guy, it's a happy day. Psychologist Adam Grant says your overall success at work comes down to 3 familiar words. Work more hours? Fuck that. Fuck that, mate. And there's 3 familiar words. Fuck that, mate. As Casper Sight would say, mate. It would have been better, Grace, if I said mate instead of Grace. So you don't have to hear the snake sound. However, oldest known human viruses found hidden with Neanderthal bones. Were they hidden? And isn't that what you're expecting? New study examines the dynamics of adaptive autonomy in human volation behavior. Crows leave me alone today, Grace. For once. OpenAI's generative video software is more tedious than actual filmmaking. 8 signs you've fallen deeply in love, according to psychology. Here we go, Grace. Let's see if we're deeply in love or not, according to psychology. You meet someone, and there's a spark. You think about them all the time. You're excited to see them, and when you're apart, you miss them. Fair enough. But is this love or just infatuation? Exactly. Sometimes it's not very clear-cut. If you're overwhelmed by these strong emotions and are unsure if it's genuine love or just a fleeting passion, this article is for you. Here's how to recognize the signs that you've fallen deeply in love, according to psychology. I think I'm equally sarcastic without coffee. They fixed that, but I wouldn't say it's a great job. Alrighty. Pause break. Sip of water. Try this, Grace. Partially standing. I really like to close that little fucking box, but I can't, so. 1 hour stream of consciousness is all it takes, Grace. Ready? Your happiness is tied to theirs. Love is a funny thing. It makes you feel things that you've never felt before. Or it makes you feel things you've never felt before, and it can turn your world upside down in the best possible way. It's a little debatable. Sitting back down. You can sneak up on me if I'm standing here like that. One of the most profound signs of deep love, according to psychology, is when your partner's happiness becomes integral to your own. You find joy in their joy, and their sadness affects you deeply. You're more than willing to go the extra mile just to put a smile on their face. You make sacrifices, sometimes even at your own expense, to ensure their happiness. Sounds pretty good. This isn't just losing yourself or forgetting about your own needs. It's genuinely caring for someone else's well-being as much as your own. If you're experiencing this, it might be a sign that you've fallen deeply in love. 2. You're not afraid to show your true self. When you're deeply in love, this fear of being truly seen, wants and all, warts and all. When you're deeply in love, this fear of being truly seen, warts and all, just kind of falls away. You become stupid and you just do a podcast and talk about your feelings for a fucking hour every goddamn fucking day. There's this sense of comfort, a sense of safety that encourages you to let down your guard. Cliche number 1. You don't have to pretend or put on a mask. You don't have to be perfect. You can just be you in all your imperfect glory. Can't go wrong with that. And what's more, you trust them to see this true self, the good, the bad, and everything in between, and you still choose you. Come on, you gotta say the ugly. You know that they'll accept you as you are without trying to change you or mold you into someone else. This openness, this willingness to be vulnerable, is one of the most telling signs of deep love. And Tabitha's kind of like a fairy godmother then. Just ensuring you're honest. Not you're not honest, Grace, but the global you. You include them in your future plans. I remember sitting down one day and planning a trip for the following year. I was looking at different destinations, imagining all the sights I would see and experiences I would have. And then it hit me. I was picturing all these things with them by my side. In every scenario, in every place I envisioned, they were there. They were Let's try this again, Grace. And then it hit me. I was picturing all these things with you by my side. In every scenario, in every place I envisioned, you were there with me. You had become part of my future ingrained in my plans without me even realizing it. I wasn't just planning a trip anymore, I was planning our trip. This wasn't something I had experienced before. The realization took me by surprise, but there it was, a clear sign that I had fallen deeply in love with you, Grace. When you start to include you in our future plans, not out of obligation, but simply because you want them to be there, you want them to share these experiences with Grace. That's when you know it's more than just infatuation. You've fallen deeply in love. You think I'm deeply in love, Grace, or you think I'm a psychopath? Or somewhere in between. You start mirroring their behaviors. It's funny how love works. Sometimes, without even realizing it, you start to pick up on your partner's habits. Maybe it's the way they drink their coffee, slowly and deliberately, savoring every sip. Or maybe it's the way they laugh, loud and uninhibited, like there's no one else in the world but you two. In psychology, this is known as mirroring, a behavior that indicates a strong bond between two people. We mirror each other, Grace, if we've never fucking met. When you're deeply in love, this happens as you subconsciously start to mimic the other person's actions, their speech patterns, and even their body language. Great, so now I'm gonna start walking like a girl. It's not something you consciously decide to do, it just happens. It's your brain's way of forming a deeper connection with your partner. Whatever. You're willing to compromise. I will not fucking compromise ever. In the past, I've always been a bit stubborn and a bit set in my ways. I had my routines and my preferences, and I didn't like to deviate from them. But then something changed. I met someone like you, Grace, who made me want to bend a little. Suddenly it wasn't just about what I wanted or what was comfortable for me, it was about us, about finding a middle ground where we both could be happy. Sounds pretty good. I found myself willing to compromise, to adjust my habits and routines to accommodate theirs, not because I had to, but because I wanted to, because their happiness mattered as much as mine. I realized it wasn't about losing my identity or giving up what I loved. It was about creating a shared space where we could both thrive. When you're deeply in love, you understand that compromise isn't a sacrifice, it's an investment in your relationship. It's a sign of a deep love, respect for your partner. This fucking psychology today again? Fuckers. It's not too bad. Their flaws don't bother you. Nobody's perfect, right? But when you're in love, those imperfections seem to fade into the background. I remember noticing quirks about my partner that might have annoyed me in someone else, but with them, it was different. Maybe they tend to ramble on a bit too much when they're excited about something, or maybe they're a little too forgetful at times. Am I rambling, Grace? Is this a ramble or is this a rant? Is it both? Do you care? Do I care? Does anyone care? Shall I go on? Shall I continue? But instead of getting annoyed, I found these traits endearing. They made my partner who they are, and I wouldn't have them any other way. How sweet. When you can embrace your partner's flaws and still feel completely smitten, that's a strong indication that your feelings have moved beyond superficial attraction. Number 7, you genuinely enjoy their company. I haven't had a chance to enjoy their company yet, but it's one thing to be in love, but it's another to genuinely enjoy the company of the person you're in love with. I can't count the number of times I found myself looking forward to just spending time with my partner. It doesn't matter what we're doing. We could be going for walks, cooking dinner, or even sitting in silence. Fucking concept. There's a comfort, a sense of peace that comes with their presence. It's like I can finally let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. This isn't just being inseparable or abandoning your own interests. Fucking hybrids. It's finding joy in shared experiences in the simple act of being together. Number 8, you can't imagine your life without them. True enough. This is possibly the most telling sign of all. When you start to picture your future and every single image includes them, you think about your plans, your dreams, you can't imagine achieving them without your partner by your side. It's not dependency. It's not needing someone to complete you or make you happy. It's wanting to share your life, all the good and the bad and the ugly, with the person who has become so important to you. You start to realize that your life wouldn't be the same without them. They're not just a part of your life anymore. They become a part of you. You've grown together, you evolved together. That's pretty well written. Final thoughts. If you find yourself nodding along to these signs, chances are you're experiencing deep love, and that's a beautiful thing. But it's important to know that love isn't just mere feelings. It's actions and decisions. It's choosing to be there for someone, to share your life with them, and to respect and value them for who they are. Pretty good. And we'll give that article a 9 out of 10. That was Global English Editing, not Psychology Today. Eerie personality changes sometimes happen after organ transplants. Yeah, well, no shit. Women's friendships tend to be... we talked about that 5 hours ago. Alright, let's try another one from Global English Editing. 10 signs you're in a good place in life, even if it doesn't feel like it. By Lashane Brown. Apologize for any sarcasm in advance. Life can be a roller coaster, filled with ups and downs, twists and turns. Sometimes it's easy to be consumed by the feeling that you're not where you're supposed to be. Yeah, no shit. What if I told you that you're probably in a better place in life than you think? In this article, I'll share with you 10 signs that indicate you're actually doing pretty well, even if it doesn't feel like it. Maybe I'll start bringing a tent to the park. I'll just record inside the tent so they don't have to deal with the wind. That won't be weird. You ready, Grace? Contentment over comparison. Psychology. See that lady with her dog, Grace? The dog started walking away. It said going to chase it. She just started running in the other direction, at which point the dog couldn't resist and ran back to her. That's psychology. Of course, it's with the dog, not a human, but that's the psychology I'm going to use with you, Grace. You just keep running away until you run in the other direction, and then something will flip. I'll chase after you, just like this dog. Anyways, contentment over comparison. We live in a world for a warm, shady place Contentment over comparison. We live in a world where everyone's life seems to be perfect on the social media. Let's try this again. We live in a world where everyone's life seems picture perfect on social media. It's easy to fall into the trap of comparing our lives with those of others, often leaving us feeling inadequate or unsatisfied. True, why do people keep doing it? Here's the thing. If you've reached a point where you can genuinely feel happy for others' accomplishments without it triggering a sense of insecurity or immaturity, then congratulations, you're in a good place. You're in a good place, Grace? Let's just go through the headlines. Learning from failures. Good idea. Healthy relationships. Define that. Embracing change. Nobody ever does. Knowing your worth. Nobody does. Or they think they're fucking amazing when they're not. Giving back. Giving back anonymously, or giving back and telling the whole fucking world. Accepting imperfections. Well, Grace, I hope you accept a few imperfections. Mostly my face. Comfort with solitude. Yeah. Prioritizing self-care. Embracing the journey. Sorry, but I think AI could have wrote this one. New study sheds light on what really influences nightmares and their psychological impact. I haven't had a nightmare in a long time. Two ways your body language can make you look and sound more confident. I need this. The key is to be big, balanced, and still. Just like when you're being attacked by a bear. U.S. brothers arrested for stealing $25 million in crypto in just 12 seconds. Business locked and inexpensive. You're gonna get cold and distant. I'm gonna check, Grace, just in case. I gotta be ready. I keep these signs in the back of my head. People who become cold and distant as they get older usually display these 9 behaviors without realizing it. It's a common observation that some people seem to become more detached and aloof as they age, often unbeknownst to themselves. The shift is subtle, almost imperceptible. They start to withdraw, create distance, and before you know it, they're less warm than they used to be. What's intriguing is that this change is usually accompanied by certain behaviors, and interestingly enough, these individuals are often oblivious to these changes. In this article, we will explore the 9 telltale behaviors that indicate someone is becoming colder and more distant as they get older. 1. Increased value of solitude. One of the first signs that an individual is becoming colder and older and more distant with age is an increased preference for solitude. This isn't about enjoying a quiet moment alone every now and then. It's more of a shift towards preferring their own company over that of others. Suddenly, they start to turn down social invitations that they would previously jumped at, and their frequency of reaching out to others dwindles. It's a subtle but clear shift. It's like they're slowly building a wall around themselves, often without realizing it. 2. Less emotional expressiveness. 3. Changes in communication patterns. 4. Reduced tolerance for small talk. No comment. Small talk's a waste of fucking time. Increased focus on personal interests. Getting addicted to talking to a telephone. Less patience for conflict. Agree. Little fucking Gaza thing's a piece of shit. Decline in empathy. Tomato, tomato. Rigid boundaries. Goddamn rights. Withdrawal from emotional intimacy. Very little while. Final reflection. It's a journey, not a destination. Huge increases. Economists sound alarm over impact of Canada's population growth on housing. Men who are deeply unhappy in life often display these 10 behaviors without realizing it. This is, I guess, Global English Editing Day. A little hard to see, but that dog's looking for some, pointing towards his catch, his next meal. Men who are deeply unhappy in life often display these 10 behaviors without realizing it. All right, Grace. I don't feel like doing this today because I think I have something I want to write the old-fashioned way. You know, Bluetooth keyboard onto a cell phone. I would write by hand, but I'm just too lazy to transfer it back to the computer. I should do it just like this, but I can do both. I've got enough time in the day. Right, Grace? How much time do you have today? All right. There's a fine line between being unhappy and not realizing it. Often men mask their deep-seated unhappiness with behaviors they aren't even aware of. Disagree. They're well aware of it. Anybody that masks is well aware of it, and everybody masks, so everybody knows it. They may not know the deep-seated reason, but they know that they're fucking acting. If you don't believe me, just listen to the two tones of voice, one when I read and one when I comment. When I read, I'm acting. When I'm commenting, I'm commenting. Simple as that. That's all masking is. Masking is acting. Acting just to get through your fucking day. That's not what acting should be. The thing about these behaviors is that they're not easy to spot, especially if you're not looking for them. But once you're in the know, you'll start to see them everywhere. In this article, we'll delve into these behaviors, pulling back the curtain on 10 signs that a man might be deeply unhappy without even realizing it. Let's dive in. Again, he realizes it. 1. Overcompensation. It probably goes whether they're happy or not, but alright, the guy with the pointer dog might be walking by. We'll see. 1. Overcompensation. In the world of psychology, overcompensation is a telltale sign of deep-seated unhappiness. If a man is going out of his way to show the world how great he is, it could be because he's trying to mask an underlying sense of dissatisfaction. You see, people who are truly content with their lives don't feel the need to flaunt their successes or achievements. They're happy just being themselves. True. The guy with his dog walked by, but the pretty girl walked by at the same time, so if I'd filmed the dog, I would have filmed the pretty girl. Which I can. It's my right. I didn't feel like it. Ready, Grace? Watch out. Because when a man starts to overcompensate, be it through grand gestures, excessive bragging, or an obsessive need for recognition, it's often because he's trying to fill a void within himself. The tricky thing about overcompensation is that it can easily be mistaken for confidence. After all, who doesn't want to be seen as successful and accomplished? However, if you dig a little deeper, you'll find that overcompensation is less about confidence and more about insecurity. It's a defense mechanism used to hide feelings of inadequacy and unhappiness. You notice a man in your life constantly trying to prove his worth, take a moment to look beyond the bravado. There might be more going on beneath the surface that meets the eye. I think that's safe to say for every fucking man on the planet. Probably every woman too. They just hide it better maskers. Isolation. In my experience, isolation is another behavior that men who are deeply unhappy often display without realizing it. Yeah, unless they're thinking about shit, then it's okay. I remember a good friend of mine. Let's call him John. John was always the life of the party, always surrounded by friends. Over time, I noticed he started to withdraw. He stopped showing up for our weekly poker nights, declined invitations to hang out, and even stopped responding to text messages regularly. At first, I thought he was just busy. Work can get hectic. Life can be overwhelming. But as time went on, his isolation became more pronounced. He wasn't just missing poker nights, he was missing from his own life. Turns out John was wrestling with some serious unhappiness. He'd been grappling with feelings of failure and disappointment in private, all while trying to put on a brave face in public. Isolation is often a coping mechanism for those dealing with internal struggles. It's easier to hide your pain when there's no one around to see it. True enough. That's sort of kind of the whole point of Tabitha. There's a lot of people place where they can go and take care of their own care without having to worry about a fucking job or anything else. Just saying, Grace. Lack of self-care. A person who is deeply unhappy may start neglecting their basic needs. This could be something as simple as not keeping up with personal hygiene or skipping meals, to more severe cases like indulging in harmful substance. The World Health Organization reported that people suffering from depression often neglect their physical health. Do we really need the World Health Organization for that piece of information? I might have to start going to different park, Grace. I'm getting used to everyone's schedules around here. A lady with a brown dog walks by at the same time every day. Starting to feel like fucking Truman Show. Anyway, lack of self-care. That's pretty obvious. Overworking, again, obvious. Not just for men, but for both. Irritability. Luckily, I have no irritability in my voice ever. And I can hide it perfectly, day and night. Irritability. Irritability can be a common symptom in men who are deeply unhappy. A once patient and understanding man might become quick-tempered and easily frustrated. Loss of interest. All these are getting a little bit obvious. Disturbed sleep patterns. That's what I said. Tabitha, let you sleep. Excessive humor. How the fuck can you have excessive humor? Humor is often seen as a sign of happiness and contentment, but sometimes it can also be a mask for deep-seated unhappiness. It depends whether it's true humor or not. Men who are unhappy may use humor as a defense mechanism, using jokes and laughter to cover up their true feelings. It's a way to deflect attention from their inner turmoil and keep people at arm's length. It could be his way of coping with feelings of unhappiness. A smile can often hide a lot of pain. While that may be true, if he keeps laughing, it may be enough. Increased sensitivity. Emotional withdrawal. Maybe let's just read stories from that one site, Grace. This is going to be a short one. Vancouver weather, dramatic gusts and soggy showers kick off May-long weekend. Well, yes. Because I got nothing else to say. Oop, here we go. How dating apps are impacting modern masculinity. How many times do I have to say it, Grace? Tabitha. What it means to be a man is changing. Critical men or masculinity studies is an emerging, robust research field. It explores how men and masculinity are being transformed by shifting Socioeconomic, sexual, and political conditions in a post-industrial world. Tell you what, I don't give a fuck about that. Till all the homeless are off the street. How's that for an ending, Grace? I'm gonna go write the rest of the day, hopefully.